Well, here's my presentation for week 3. I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the interview that I did with my clinical educator. Um, it's a little bit different because, we're not in the same classroom, so we each have our own classrooms. So the interview that I gave was more of a questionnaire that I gave to her, and then we talked about it a little bit afterwards. But the main take home that I got from her is the importance of taking time at the beginning of the year. So, really taking the time to establish rules, routines, going over rubrics, and creating relationships with students at the beginning of the year. Now, she said that she usually takes about 3 weeks to do this, which sounds like a really long time, but like she said, it pays off. When you establish those rules and routines, procedures at the beginning of the year, that work pays off. Now, if you don't do it right, if you're only spending, a day or two on them, then you're not going to be able to um, maintain what they had learned, what the students have learned throughout the entire year. You're going to have to continually revisit those and basically reteach them. Um, Now she sees a lack of emphasis on classroom management, multiple intelligences, and communication with parents in the teacher training programs. So when she was going to school, those were really big. We touch on classroom management type stuff. You hear the multiple intelligences, but it's certainly not emphasized. Communication with parents, I would say, also isn't emphasized too much. We're not really trained how to do it. Again, it's brought up in a few classes, but you don't really go over, um, I guess, set ways in order to do that, and the real importance of doing that. And she also said, lastly, that over the years she's really shifted to more content mastery rather than quantity of work. So she just really wants to see that students are mastering the standards or learning goals that she sets forward, not too concerned about the quantity of work that they're doing. Um, I know sometimes I feel a little bit pressured to do quantity just so I have stuff to grade so I can put in the grade book, because a lot of times I don't have a ton of stuff to put in there. But I agree, it's really more about the content mastery rather than showing those grades. So now moving into talking about my experience going through secondary education. So this is a picture of Troy High School in Troy, Montana. This is actually looking at the junior high, but the junior high and high school are on the same campus and basically share the buildings. Um, and it's really kind of a story with two tales. I'll kind of explain that. So first, so the teaching methods that my teacher used in junior high was very much direct instruction, very teacher-centered approach to learning. You know, the typical day involved notes, so we'd take notes for about 10 minutes. Then the rest of the period would just be worksheets or book work, maybe of watching a video, something like that. For the most part, the teacher was at his computer. So this was back in the day, kind of when Napster was first becoming a big thing. So he would be on his computer downloading music a lot. Um, he would not provide any sort of feedback. The only lab I can remember doing was making oobleck. And in a science class, I feel like that's pretty sad. You should have a lot of, I think, fun and exciting experiences in a science class. So that's kind of the bad, definitely. In high school, it changed. The teachers used mostly a combination of direct instruction and then hands-on group activities and labs. Um, the chemistry teacher, I would say, was more bookwork and notes, kind of more direct instruction where he was up in front of the class, but it was more engaging. Um, Biology teacher, a lot of kind of group work. We didn't sit in desks and rows facing the front of class. We were sitting at tables, which I really liked, and that's how I have my classroom too. And I thrived in these types of learning environments. You know, I I do really well with the lectures, the taking notes, things like that. Um, but I also really enjoyed the hands-on experiences as well. And that's been hard as a teacher. Just I know that not all students get much out of the lectures and the notes, things that really helped me in school. Um, so a lot of times I kind of have to go against what really helped for me in my own classroom. So that was basically my experience in my science classrooms. Um, I'd say one in junior high, really bad experience, and then once got to high school, had some great, great teachers and good experiences. So this is my classroom now. So I teach seventh grade life science at Belle Fourche Middle School. This is I'm in my second year. Um, so, when I think of my classroom, I really, um, and what I have now and what I want to have is a classroom that's fair. And I really kind of chose four things that I think um, kind of take us towards a classroom that's being fair. The first thing is the importance of feedback. This came up as super important in the Haiti book. Formative assessments ranked number 3 out of his entire list, and then feedback in general ranked 10. So they're super important, super valuable to students. And I think it's fair that students are getting feedback, not just feedback at the end of a unit when they get their tests back, but throughout the entire process. So they are able to, kind of uh, take control of their own learning too, and they know what they might need to be working on. The second thing is setting up success criteria, learning goals, and making sure that those are known to students. That's kind of part of the providing feedback. The students know why we are doing what we're doing in the classroom. Marzano had, the first chapter in the book was about this. So you're establishing learning goals. You're tracking progress with the students. So the teacher's tracking progress as well as the students. And then you celebrate those successes when they come. That is also a huge, huge part of, setting up these goals. This fits really well with, backward design unit planning, where you look at the standards, you develop your learning goals, which of course are shared with the students. You set up the assessment, and then you set up your lessons and your activities to achieve those learning goals. So I think that fits in really well with backward design, which is more work. It definitely is, but makes you as a teacher more intimate with the content as well. Um, and yeah, it'd be a lot easier just to go through stuff and then make up your tests at the end of what you got covered, but it's definitely not as efficient and not as fair for the students. The next thing is metacognition. Um, so again, this ranked pretty high in the Haiti book, ranking 13th. And like he described it, it's kind of students are thinking about thinking. So this could involve the students planning approaches to tackle a task. So whether it's some sort of project that they're working on, maybe it's them setting up their own approaches to meet the learning goals. Along the way, they're evaluating their progress, towards whatever it is, completing a project or meeting learning goals. And then towards the end, they're monitoring their comprehension. So they are providing a kind of a detailed and kind of honest look at their comprehension of the material, and maybe going back and covering things that they might have missed a little bit. And then the last thing I think is huge for any teacher is just the rules and routines, that classroom management portion of it. Going back to what my clinical educator brought up, taking the time at the beginning of the year to set those up. I kind of did a decent job this year of setting those up, but man, I know that I have some more work that I could do next year to make it better. I have a teacher on my team right now that just does not have great classroom management, and it definitely shows. Um, you know, it shows what teachers really demand, um, or I shouldn't say demand, but expect, um, and set those rules and routines, and get the respect from the students. They definitely don't demand it; they get it. Because they've set up their classroom in a way that students want to give the respect. So those are kind of the four things that, when I'm thinking about teaching, the methods I want to use, kind of the four things that I see as really big in creating that fair classroom that I want to have. So thanks for listening.